Anybody want to try and maybe suggest or share an idea or guess what groupthink is? The purpose of me asking that question, I just want to see basically who's gonna try and voice out, I mean, who's gonna try to say something. When you think about it, all of us have a rough idea what groupthink is. You know, it's like thinking in a group, you know, like this and that, right? But precisely what I'm trying to say is because nobody, right, in a group, in a larger group, maybe nobody tries to voice it out, right? So basically what groupthink is I think it's, to put it generally, it's thinking in a group, basically. Individuals thinking in a group, right, for a specific outcome. And so then in that particular condition, we have a lot of different minds trying to find a rationalized way of doing things. I think we've all faced it a lot, groupthink. Like in organizations, in group projects, in whatever it is, we're all trying to figure out things and ideas, right? And let's face it, I think most of the ideas are crap, right? So I have to differentiate something. Firstly, you might think that groupthink might involve conformity, right? We think that it's merely simply conforming every single idea you got and not saying anything, right? But I think in groupthink, the condition is rationalized conformity, right? Meaning we are consciously aware, right, that we might have an idea, but we don't voice it out. Why? Because there's always someone else who's doing it, there's always someone else who's taking the position, and so we don't voice it out because we might think that maybe his idea is better than mine, so I don't voice it out. Right? So that is basically what groupthink is. So in a normal social environment, so normally in a group environment we have social conditioning, right? So basically social conditioning is one of the things I'm going to cover. I think most of us have a very negative connotation when we say social conditioning, like what's wrong with you? Social conditioning did this to me, social conditioning did that to me, and this kind of stuff, right? But I would say that social conditioning gave us a lot of values, a lot of things. And it's actually quite good what it does, because I think firstly, what it does is it gives us community values, right? That's one of them. And next, it allows us to learn things really, really quickly, right? Imagine you know, what happens if you have to live life and experience every single thing firsthand, right? You're gonna die probably somewhere trying something, right? Like can I jump off a building and you're not sure and you jump off and you die, right? So basically that's what social conditioning does. We learn really quickly from each other. Right, but what goes on in your mind, and basically what goes on in your mind is, right, your subconscious mind, it's not unconscious, but subconsciously, what we are doing is we are pinging off the environment, right? We ping off somebody else, and we're trying to see who's more sure of themselves. So for example, in this situation, if I'm more sure of myself, everybody will be reacting more to me. Right? Everybody will be listening to me, they'll be learning, like just following my lead. Right? Whereas if you are more socially confident, right, if you're more confident, stronger, whatever it is, right, then we would be pinging off you more. Right, so that's basically how we learn in social conditioning. So we ping off each other, we try to find who's more sure of themselves, and we tend to follow whoever's the most sure of themselves. How many of you guys think it's necessary to break out a groupthink? Show of hands. Anybody?
2 hands.
2 hands, 3 hands. For anyone else think it's necessary to break away from groupthink? While it is good that we learn a lot of things, one of the greatest weaknesses of humanity, one of the greatest weaknesses of being human, is that because we are socially pinging off, we rarely have the confidence to do anything for ourselves. We rarely have enough confidence to project our ideas, to live our lives, and so we kind of stifle our mind. Right? As a result of that, we just don't live. We're just puppets following the flow, going with the flow wherever it is, and we don't voice ourselves out. We have no strength, we have no depth in character because we're always following things, right? Let's say if you're pinging off me, for example, and I make a joke, right, and then you will laugh. I mean, everybody has definitely had the experience to laugh, and then you'll ask yourself like, what the hell, why did I just laugh? It's not even funny. But then you just naturally reflex, like, you just laugh, right? So that is what's happening when your subconscious mind is socially pinging off everyone. I think this is important, because while we believe that change should happen on a social level, every change happens from one person who is strong enough to step up and do the whole change, right? Well, I'm not even interested in talking about social change. I'm talking about personal growth, personal change, right? My form of art today, what I'm sharing, is basically living, right? Living and being human, right? Answering to your mind, answering to your own genius, answering to yourself as an art, as a form of living, right? And that itself, I think, is the greatest expression of art, because from there you listen to yourself, you look to yourself for intuition, for whatever it is, right? So the first thing that we have to do, I think, and it's necessary for most of us to break away from groupthink. Why? Basically, right, all this while we've been looking at the group thing. For example, in a family, we're looking at the parents, like they will tell us what to do and behave and whatnot. We go into an environment, for example, in this case, right, and my confidence level will probably be equivalent to how many people I know. So then I won't project as much confidence, right? I will maybe blend in with the environment and just do whatever goes, right? So we need to break away from this, because I think it's time that we learn to live our own lives. I think it's time that we start answering to ourselves, right? You may think some of us are doing that already, but I think it's not enough, right? So what social conditioning does to us, right? One of the beliefs that is put into us through social conditioning is that we think that our personality is our personality. Right, like I think I'm timid, like it's been like a childhood thing, I've been shy all my life, I've been timid all my life, and that's what we think. But the real thing is that what really happens is that when we're young, everything just gets boxed in, right? So maybe if you're looking to experience the world and you have a very strict mother, and then she will give you the environment, the values, and you will take everything because we don't have a choice. We take in whatever we have first, so that we can experience the world and so that we can live through the world. Right, so everything just boxed in, and so when we grow up, we think, this is the way I am. Right, so naturally, we could make our personality anything we want it to be. Right, but it's really hard to start, tearing ourselves up and clearing things that's been going on throughout our lives. A way to look at groupthink, right, is let's say we take a look at plants. Right, has anyone here grows plants? Right, a few of us. Right, so we know how plants grow. Right? So basically, when it starts, it's like it requires support. Right, like it grows itself. Right, and when it's enough support and it's finally developed, and then it will start to grow outwards. Right. So this is the situation with human beings. Right, we are all mentally lazy. I'm serious when I mean this. We are all mentally lazy. I'm myself mentally lazy at sometimes. Right, human beings, we want to save time and energy. Right? It's like kind of a common rule of life and biology, right? To save time and energy. So we don't want to spend it unnecessarily, right? So what happens is, because we are always looking to the group to think, to tell us how to think, then we just go on the flow, and so that's what it is. We're just plants growing with support. So what happens when you remove that support? And the whole thing will crumble, right? And this is, most of us may not know it yet, but we'll all face it eventually in our lives. It will crumble, and we will lose everything we have. I mean, some of us who are much older might have experienced this, where most of the time in choices in our lives, we come between self-preservation versus self-development. Right? But self-development is often seen as a fear of loss, right? So it's like maybe if we're in a group situation, we have to decide, like, okay, is it better to voice an idea that I may not be confident about, right? And I risk being shamed, I risk losing my ego, my self-image, everything, as compared to just keeping quiet and following through, and maybe I keep everything, right? So I think this is the ego really is the main issue, right? So we have this too, and most often people have their confidence broken because we haven't learned to trust ourselves. We haven't learned to believe in our own abilities, and so we always fall back to self-preservation, and so we go on with groupthink. Right, so then that way there's probably no way we're going to develop ourselves, because we always, when we come to an impasse, or in our mental impasse, we choose to go with self-preservation instead of self-development. So just to summarize the whole thing, groupthink, it's good, right? Because social conditioning, we learn a lot of things. We learn community values, and we learn things really, really quickly. But why it's bad, and I think we all know this, is because in all the groups, right, it robs away from us, the power for critical thinking, for self-thinking, for innovative ideas. And I think that's what's necessary for our own lives, right? To be leaders of our own lives, we have to develop this.